broadcast. You take on the tough things, and I think we've got to talk about Israel and Hamas. This is a sport platform, so I want to do it in that vein, in that perspective. But for those who have been living under a rock and not paying attention to this global matter, Hamas, which is by way of the United States Declaration, and we're United States citizens, is a terrorist organization. They basically govern the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
Certainly, we don't have time to go into the deep, rich history, but they did attack Israel on October 7th. Many people state that it is one of the worst intelligence failures ever when we talk about conflict, how they could do this, not hitting one town, one city, but more than 20 in Israel by land, air, and sea. Some people say that this was sparked because of the history of Israel's, some people would say occupation, some people would call it apartheid in that region. But two things that are noteworthy. 2018, it was decided that our embassy would move to Jerusalem, and that is very, very big. That offended a lot of people. But our country decided that we would recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The other point is the Abraham Accords, which was an effort to recognize Israel, as in, if we can get a major Arab country, in particular Saudi Arabia, to recognize Israel, that means something. And there are those people who believe between those two things, that was more than enough to ignite this powder keg again. So it is very, very complex. It's a blend of history, religion, and race, a fight for power. And when we talk about power, that's when you just strip it down, we're talking about land. That's what makes a people feel empowered, because you have a land. You have a nation. So here we are today. And what I researched and looked at was, how are sports stars handling this? Not in comparison to other movements, in particular, the fight for liberation for African Americans here in this country, or Africans on the continent of Africa. But I'm talking about this, again, very, very complex matter. And I saw that just a few days ago, Muslim and Arab sports stars held a summit over this Israel-Hamas war. And I just want to make a few notes about this. There were about 30 athletes from football, cricket, and rugby. They discussed this conflict, and the players were very, very adamant that they want to see tributes to everybody who lost their lives. And they noted that in the past, in particular, I think it was in 2019, when there was another conflict, that there seemed to be only support for the Israeli persons who lost their lives. And they said, this can't happen again. We have to make sure that everybody gets recognized. Death is death, regardless of where you stand. So they came together. Another point of this, which we like to discuss, is asking everybody or warning people to stay off of social media. Because with social media, you get, and I will use Hillary Clinton's word, you get the deplorables, you get the crazies who start going off and start causing harm, trolling, and even physical attacks. So there's the social media issue. What are your rights to be able to speak your truth?
Right.
Also, some of them said that there is a big game at Wembley, England's friendly against Australia, I think this Friday, that some Muslim and Arab players said that they are going to walk off the pitch, as in walk off the field, if respect is not shown for Palestinians lost in this conflict. And again, going back to 2019, where the Premier League and the Football League, they did not hold tribute for
I remember that.
50 people that were killed, whereas they did do something when there was the attack in 2015 in Paris. I'm just going to read a quote, and of course the numbers continue to change. The quote says, over 950 people died in Gaza and 1,000 people died in Israel. Every single civilian life is a tragedy and must be mourned. Why would we have a minute's silence for the Israelis, but not the Palestinian people who are also suffering? Another point to make is team chemistry. Because of this abuse on social media from players who posted or retweeted material, people are receiving threats, some of them racist, and some of them, again, are being trolled. One in particular, our Arsenal player, that he posted, he stands with Israel. And then another teammate, he was vilified for showing his support for Palestine. So I'll just pause there. There's so much more to talk about. I'm all for peace. I want to stop the violence. Yes. I do have a particular feeling about what is going on over there in terms of how I've been taught, how I've been, what I've researched, and certainly understanding the historically marginalized, the people who've been oppressed, the people who've been disenfranchised need a voice. So I'll pause there. Sports, Israel, and Hamas.
Wow.
Dr. Stroman, I was just processing all the points you were making and just thinking about the sports stars and where they are and what they stand for. I guess the thing that when I think about the entire conflict and I just think about it, I just have a hard time wrapping my head around. It always gets to be, why is it difficult just to respect the other person? It's always, I don't know, it's always, I don't know, it baffles me. I mean, we struggle with the same things here in this country. And what about just me being me offends you to this point that I have, that you have to try to disenfranchise me? It's like you can't, like one side can't be happy without, saying that they want to, impose their will on the other side and vice versa. I don't know. It's just another example of that, and it just happens time and time again.
My grandmother.
Well, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to say, I don't know if it's just the way we're wired in terms of human nature, that we can't have the spirit of Ubuntu, which is an African concept of we're all in this together. If you hurt, I hurt.
Yeah.
When you celebrate, I celebrate. Are we just born to be selfish? That we all can't live in peace, that we all can't share? What is this thing about I've got to have more than you? Or we have to, as has been stated, punch down on others? I don't know. Are we the craziest species on this planet? I don't know. That's a great point.
Yeah, you can have more than me. It's just that it always gets down to most of the times the way that you want to get more than me is you want to take from me. It's like
that's true.
Just go go make more. Just do what you do, but that don't mean you have to take from us or from me or from the individuals. Just go. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we talking about Deb Stroman. We rock with her each and every Thursday, same place, same time, dishing up with her. I think my grandma used to say there's always something, right? You always got to deal with something. And the spirit of humanity somewhat don't exist universally at all in terms of the stuff you guys talking about. Let people be people and stop trying to hate on people and stop trying to one-up them or punch down them like you said. I mean, the spirit of humanity gets lost in that whole process. Because sometimes you get confused on what the hell they fighting for.
Right.
What is the issue? I mean, it's and sometimes, and not all the time. Sometimes it's almost something that could be worked out, or could be avoided. And we in this mess right now. United States involvement. It's just really complicated.
It is. It's so very sad when you think about it. I think I was reading something the other day, like over 600,000 people displaced. No water, food, things
Right now,
like that. They're showing the kids.
There's no water, no fuel, no food, nothing.
Right.
No electricity. I mean, so what do you do? I mean, it's.
And how do you help?
Yeah. I don't know.
Again, this is about power, and it's about land. We're like the patron state, the patron country to uphold Israel. Israel would not exist where it is today if the United States resources weren't available to them. That's just a fact.
That's a fact. Yep.
And then when we think about, Palestine, the support, where does that come from? Now, we know we have different organizations working within the whole region to help people who are trying to resist Israel. And so we can say there's Russia involved. We could say there's definitely, we know the connection between Iran. But it is very clear that the United States is deeply, deeply in partnership with Israel. And there are a lot of people who are Israelis, Jewish, all different races and ethnicities have a problem with that. But we stand firm in our connection and our partnership with Israel, and that is not going to change. And so how do we move forward? I think we need to study. I think we need to try our best to see different perspectives on this. When we think about the history there, just the term Middle East, that's a political construct that was made up. And sadly, I can say this, is that much of the conflict going all the way back in time is due to colonialization, colonizing by Britain, by England, right? They colonized India, and they thought that this region was strategic for them. And so it really is Northeast Africa, right? But it got coined the Middle East because they felt that they wanted to say, some people say, well, it's halfway between Britain and China. So we're going to say the middle half right there. Others will say that it was termed because they wanted to name it something, I guess, almost, again, a power grab to move away from the power of Africa or the power of Western Asia and to coin it something else. So we have to understand that there are some people to this day who say we've got to stop saying it's Middle East. It's a Western term reflecting a Western perspective, power. And then when we talk about, we talked about the language, you talk about the team chemistry, we have to consider that there are different peoples living in Palestine, right? There is Israelis, there are Palestine Jewish people. So we have to understand how the religion plays in this. One organization that I like to study and follow and learn more about is the Jewish Voice for Peace. It's the largest progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the world. And these are Jewish people who feel that Israel needs to take their foot off of Palestinian people. It's so complex. It does touch the world of sports. This is global. Right. Because if we think with our critical caps on that if this continues to explode in the most selfish way, we have to look at oil being restricted here in the United States, which means all of us driving around in these tanks and these cars, right, that our gas prices are going to go up. It's going to affect the world supply chain. It's going to affect us.
Yes.
And not even to mention that violence can break out here in this country. We know there's conflict taking place, whether it's pushing and shoving, people using profanity to one another, we know that's taking place. But I'm talking about major conflict can happen here. And then when I think about basketball, I think about the NBA. 22% of the NBA is comprised of international players. And in fact, Egypt, hello, African country. A lot of people don't want to think of it
I
that
know.
way.
I know.
But there's an Egyptian basketball player, Olympian, and former vice president of the Egyptian Basketball Federation. He has been named the new head of NBA Egypt by NBA Africa. So this is deep, it's complex, but I don't want us to gloss over it. I think we need to stay on top of this, and we need to talk about this with our friends, with our family members. Not necessarily to say, where do you stand, pick a side, but to have understanding about how this affects us.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Dr.
That's
Stroman.
right.
Yeah.
Dr. Stroman, as always, like I said in the opening, there's a story to be told, and we tell it each and every day, and we just told another one. Appreciate you, Dr. Stroman.
Thank
Thank you. Powerful.
Well, thank you for this space to be able to talk about this. Hopefully people will be inclined to do some more research and to follow this. And make sure you watch where you get your news. I'm very particular in making sure I watch USA News, but I also watch Al Jazeera. I listen to Democracy Now! And Reuters. Make sure you're getting diverse streams of information.
Interesting.
Could have said it better myself.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right, Dr. Stroman, appreciate
Thank
you as
you.
always.